I just want to say I'm really pleased to be here. I was really excited to come to this festival. I'm not usually excited about speaking on a Saturday. This was one occasion where I was really pleased to be here. And I suppose I'll start by saying I'd like to talk about how far we've come, what the Match Women would make of us today with our Women General Secretary talking, but also how far we've got to go. And I should probably start off by saying I don't think that I'm necessarily representative of lots of women out there who may or may not be in trade unions. I'm here today with my mum, who's a staunch trade unionist, who encouraged me not only to join a trade union but become a trade union rep in my first ever job. I'm here with my daughter, who when asked what she wants to do when she grows up, not only says she wants to work for the TUC, but she sings a little TUC song, which she might give us later. So recognise that actually not all women are in that position. I think, as I said, today is really a cause for celebration, talking about how far we've come since the Match Women's strike, but also a cause for reflection and perhaps to consider how far we as women trade unionists have got to go. As I said, we've got a woman General Secretary of the TUC who was speaking earlier. We have a woman President of the TUC, not the TUC song now. A woman leader of the European TUC and also a woman leader of the International TUC, and 15 women union leaders. But it's not just our leadership that's changed, membership has changed too. Women are more likely to be union members than men. Over half of union members are women, that's 54.7%. Women are more likely to be union members across every ethnic group, and we know that women have a huge amount to gain from trade union membership. All of us in this room probably know what we have to gain and what women have gained. We have occupational maternity schemes well above the statutory minimum. We have workplace policies on domestic violence and sexual harassment. We have subsidised childcare. We have training opportunities. Unions obviously have bargained for fair pensions and decent pay for all, which has had a huge impact for women, particularly in the public sector. And perhaps most significantly, women have a lot to gain from being in the union financially, in that the trade union wage premium is much bigger for women. I think it's about 9% for men and it's 30-odd% for women, which is huge. As cheering as it is to see lots of women in our trade union movement and leading our trade union movement, I don't think we're yet in a position where we can put our feet up and say, job done, we've done it, we've achieved it. As Laura talked about, the title of this is about women unions completing the revolution, and I think I said last time I spoke on something, I'm not sure how I feel about the title completing the revolution, because it kind of implies that there's an end game and that we're going to get there and we've achieved it and we can put our feet up and say it's all done, and I don't think that's the case. I think that this is not something that we can ever take our eye off the ball. I think we need to keep on working at it. And we have made huge strides, but there's still a long way to go. I don't think our leadership yet reflects our membership. So whilst we might have very senior women like Frances on the news and representing a very different picture of trade unions, I think, to what people were used to, I think it's still fair to say that in lots of trade unions they've got a huge membership of women, but very few women in senior roles. They might have a woman general secretary, you look at their executive, they may have one woman on the executive. Still a long way to go. I was reading Louise Raw's book about the Match Women, which I really enjoyed, which is unusual because I don't usually enjoy history books, but I did enjoy that book. And there's a quote in there that I was really struck by from the trade unionist, and it was talking about the difficulties of organising women, and it says, "The short sentence, organise the women workers, simply bristles with difficulties, such as the lack of qualities in women of self-reliance, independence and self-government, their greater timidity, home cares, and many like objections." So, although the trade union movement hasn't always covered itself in glory, I think we've moved on from that point, I hope we can say that. But we can't be complacent. I think you can't fix a problem unless you acknowledge that the problem exists. And actually one thing that I would agree with in that quote was the home cares. Actually, juggling childcare with work is a huge barrier for lots of women, and it's a barrier for women in trade union roles, and realistically, with a tax on facility time, that's making it that much harder. If you've got a day job, you're looking after your kids, how many people, men as well, but particularly women realistically, are then going to be able to go to their branch meeting at 8 o'clock that evening? Lots of women do it, lots of women find that really difficult. And if we're being really painfully honest, we should probably also recognise that there are sexist views in the union movement still today, and they haven't been completely eradicated. They haven't been eradicated anywhere in society. I think Laura talked about rates of sexual assault and rape. I think there's much broader problems, cultural problems in society that haven't been eradicated, so why would they have been eradicated in the trade union movement? Too many women in unions are still feeling excluded and put off by quite a macho culture. When I last spoke on this subject at a conference, I mentioned a quote from some research that TEC was doing with an academic on mentoring women in unions, and I was really struck by one of the quotes from one of the participants in that research. She'd gone through a mentoring programme in PCS, and the quote was, "We had this guy in health and safety. He had held the position for an eternity, but he never opposed anything. Then there was this young woman who was interested in health and safety and wanted to take on a role. So he locked away all the books, and he said to her, 'Shut up, woman, you don't know what you're talking about.' So she walked out saying she would not do health and safety if he was still doing it. So we've potentially lost someone good, and in reality, everyone goes to her anyway for advice on health and safety." I think we need to make sure that we are never the ones who are metaphorically or literally locking away the books. So I think, to sum up really, what I wanted to say today, apart from the TEC song, is that we've achieved huge change and progress, but we've still got a long way to go, and I think we're heading in the right direction. And I hope that what we'll get out of the workshops is perhaps a bit of discussion about those issues, about how we organise women. I think Sian raised some really good issues about the challenges of organising lots of workers, but particularly women in 0 hours contracts and lots of different types of precarious work that make organising incredibly difficult. But I think there are challenges for all of us today, whether you're a young woman who's active in your union, and you might want to encourage other young women to get active in your union. You have to kind of go out, in fact, we were talking about this the other day, you have to go out and find those women, they're not going to come to you. And if you're a more senior woman in a trade union, it's about offering that hand to someone and saying, look, you can do it too, and showing them that it is possible to achieve more in trade unions and to reach leadership roles as well. So I'll leave it there, because I think it's Lucy's turn.